Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of CampVantage Live. Sorry, got a couple minutes late here. I couldn't get my camera to focus on me, which is probably better for all you guys. I gotta figure out a way to look at the camera instead of look over here when we are normally having these calls. I'm gonna put a couple people on stage here as we go through here because I don't want this to be me talking at people. So if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand and I will put you on stage and you can turn on your camera if you'd like or just talk to people versus putting answers to questions in the chat messages. But if you do have questions like that, I'm happy to answer them. Other than that, let's just get started really quickly. I'm going to share my screen and go through some typical AI news that has come up in the last week. For those of you who are in the United States, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday weekend. I think some of the news that we've seen has been a little bit slow as a result of that holiday. But still lots of things to cover in the world of AI. So let's run through a couple headlines here. So we got Langham Hospitality Group unveils advanced AI technology across their global hotel portfolio. I haven't read this whole article in detail yet, but this came across my newsfeed this morning. And what it basically reads as is what you would expect. They're launching AI customer service. And the reason I bring this up for you guys in the campground RV park space is that you're going to see a lot more of this come from major companies like Delta Airlines and Hilton Hotels and Langham and places like that. And these experiences are going to set the expectations for your guests. They're going to start to demand 24/7 answers to questions, to have customer service be available, to be able to do anything they want, ask any question they want. And that seems unrealistic until you realize where the technology already is today. For those of you who have been in this space for a while, you remember probably, I think it was 2012 or 13, where Facebook rolled out the ability for you to direct message pages in the background for your business. And at that time, there was an unrealistic expectation from consumers that because you could message the page now, they would expect an answer 24/7, which isn't realistic from almost any business in the world. But today with AI, this is not unrealistic anymore because you can actually have one of these AIs be available 24/7 and it's relatively cost efficient. So just keep an eye on this space. The more that you see hotels and airlines and places like that announce this stuff, you're going to get customer service on WhatsApp, on Instagram, on WeChat, on email, on everywhere else. People are going to start to expect instant answers from you. And that's going to change the way people expect to have customer service through your business as well. Let's look at a couple other things here. There's a couple older stories that I found just because we have not had a chance to get together more than this is the second week of CampVantage. We're just kind of finding our groove here. I'm going to take a couple weeks off for the holiday and come back in 2026. I think we got 2 more weeks left before we do that. But there was this interesting article that I found in RV Business with van builder Roast Monster. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong with the 2 dots on the top of the O. Launches a Grover AI assistant. This is really interesting to me because this is kind of, and it was from October 8th, so it's not old, but it's old in the world of AI, almost 2 months now. And they basically said they're a Colorado-based builder that has integrated AI in a way that they will have access, customers will have access to a custom AI assistant built specifically for their vehicle. So whether a customer owns a one-of-a-kind custom build or a model from their lineup, it delivers service and troubleshooting information tailored to that exact rig, from understanding electrical layouts to managing plumbing, heating, or solar systems. It acts as a 24/7 first line of support. So this is also something else. Like early on, we've had lots of conversations with RV dealers about how they're implementing AI at their businesses. And one of the biggest low-hanging fruits is RV service. There are so many people who call for questions that don't need the service department to actually handle it. They could be spending their time on more in-depth repairs or things that are actually broke or that need the RV to be pulled in and pulled apart to repair. Whereas these are low-hanging fruits that agents can handle. So if in this case it appears the agent is actually just built into your vehicle to ask you questions, I'm assuming almost like an Alexa type device. This is my Alexa thermostat talks to me in the background. This, but this is some of the niche use cases that you'll be able to use AI for to make operations better. So imagine something like, let's just take an Alexa where it is available to you in your cabins at your resort. and hopefully it doesn't talk over you like my thermostat keeps doing. But imagine that in your resort. That's not only so now you have an AI that can answer questions pre-arrival. You have an AI that can answer questions during the stay, too, as a concierge. And whether that's a chatbot or a phone agent, or it's talking to your guest through a speaker or an Alexa device or a Google Assistant device or something like that on the wall of your cabin. At that point, it becomes really useful the more you tie it into the systems around your property. So even something as advanced in a year or two, if you wanted to build this, where if you have a really popular water park and there are 7 cabanas around the water park that you rent for premium prices, and you put a security camera on that setup of the cabanas, and the AI, the Alexa device inside the cabin can be asked, is there a cabana available now for me to rent? And it can actually look at the camera and tell the person, yes, if you go now, there's one available. And then even, would you like us to hold it for you? So all this sounds crazy. All this sounds like impossible to achieve. But these are the little things that are going to slowly change the way your guests interact with your property. And it's going to allow you guys to make more money. It's going to allow you to save more time, and it's going to improve the guest experience. All 3 of those things. Whereas automation in the past has really just been focused on making the business owner more money. I think if we figure out a way to balance all 3 of those, which is what AI unlocks for us, it's going to be a really interesting future for a lot of people. Some other cool things that I came across that may or may not be related to us. Artificial intelligence is watching pop-ups still come across your screen. Artificial intelligence is watching where drivers park in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is December 1st, so yesterday this came out. Hundreds of smart cameras. We were just talking about cameras with cabanas, right? On mobile enforcement cars are mounted on poles in Pittsburgh are leading a tech-aided war on illegal parking. The Pittsburgh Parking Authority says it's only trying to better enforce parking laws, but all that surveillance is making people uneasy. So they've basically gotten rid of human meter readers, or they're planning on doing that. Mounted scanners can determine if a vehicle has paid or hasn't paid to park simply by driving by, taking a picture of each vehicle with a ticket to follow coming in the mail. The mobile scanners allow them to cover huge swaths of the city without ever getting out of the car. So again, just ways that maybe this isn't our favorite way, right? Especially if we're an illegal parker, or we skirt the rules a little bit or determine where the gray line is. But these are different ways that cities, businesses, organizations are saving money and time using AI, and honestly, probably making things better. Because yes, we've all had our probably share of 1 or 2 or more parking tickets throughout our lives. But for the most part, if you park in a wrong spot, it's going to cause a headache for someone else. So this ends up making most everyone else's lives better when we can use things like this to our advantage. All right, so I've got that and that. Let's look at what else I have here. AWS is having an event right now. I don't have a tab to share for this, but AWS is having their developer conference, AWS reInvent 2025 right now. As you can imagine, there's a ton of things that are focused on artificial intelligence there. One of the big things that has come out of that, I think, is that they continue to talk about AI as employees. And what I mean by that is they're actually building niche-specific AI agents that can do specific tasks. So think of Stripe, a payment processor. And this is not an example they gave. I'm just making something up. But think of Stripe, a well-known payment software. There's an agent that will actually plug into Stripe. And just like you would hire an expert who knows everything about Stripe and finance and can do all the transactions and do all the things, same thing with QuickBooks or something like that. You'll be able to plug an expert QuickBooks person into your QuickBooks and be able to ask them any question you want, because it will be able to operate the software and know where all the settings are and find all the reports and look at the reports and pull out the data. And so these are, again, things that it all is very overwhelming, but these are things that are eventually and relatively quickly going to make your lives much easier to run your businesses and to understand how your finances work. This one is a little fun and crazy. I don't think this is actually a product yet, but I just wanted to show this because Gemini brought it up to me when I was looking for AI news. There's apparently a Pickapoo dog waste pickup robot, in case that's of interest to anyone who runs a campground, who has people who do not perhaps use the doggy bags as much as they should. I thought that guy was a little bit cute and thought I would show that there. The other thing I wanted to show you here is, and I know we're running a little bit short on time, is Google has an agentic booking commercial model that they have announced. So they, a couple weeks ago, they announced they're bringing, if you're not familiar with Google AI mode, you can go to google.com. And when you see the blue links, when you search for something, the top left corner, there's a row of things underneath that says AI mode, all news, videos, images, stuff like that. If you click on AI mode, you're going to start to see what the future of search is going to be like, probably in 2026, with no blue links at all. And this article, they talked about it at the Focusrite conference and some other places, and released, this press release where they're bringing hotel and flight bookings that are coming to Google's AI mode. So the goal with this, if you're following Google at all, is to literally allow you to do anything that you want to transact inside of Google itself. So it goes from search engine to action engine. So for you as campground owners and operators, we're going to be a little bit behind this curve probably, but you're going to start to see people be able to book hotels and book flights without leaving Google search. And at that point, again, the customer expectation changes. And there's going to be a period where maybe it's CampSpot, maybe it's NewBook, maybe it's ResNexus, maybe it's somebody else that introduces the ability for you to link your reservation system to whatever they're building here. And the people who take advantage of this first are going to be the ones that can take advantage of these bookings in advance first. And where do you think consumer behavior is going to go? Always goes to the lowest, easiest, frictionless route. So this isn't something that's going to happen tomorrow for campgrounds, but something to keep your eye on as well. I've got a couple other things, but we'll hold off on that for now because we're past our 10 minutes news thing for the beginning. So we've got several people in the room here. Not as many as last week. I think that's just because a holdover here from the holiday weekend. But do we have any questions that anybody has about artificial intelligence, camping, anything that they want to talk about related to their business? I see Randy Hendrickson. Are you there? Do you have some questions? You always are a good talkative person. Can I bring you on stage if you're there? I'm just going to throw you on stage and see if you actually are paying attention. I'll invite you to stage. And there's a couple other people here. So if you guys have any questions, if there's anything I can help about, what the goal of these calls is for everybody here to be able to talk about their wins, some things that they've done with AI, haven't done with AI, things that they think could help other people through some of the experiences they've learned and things like that. So if there's anybody else here who would like to share with us some of the things that they've done this week with AI, please feel free to join the stage, raise your hand, put a comment in chat, and we can discuss it with each other. And we'll see if we can just help each other learn a little bit more about AI. And if we have shy people like we did last week who don't want to talk too much, then I'm happy to just continue talking about some new AI features that we have in the world. But other than that, I'll leave you guys for a second here to type in some comments in chat if you have any questions or anything like that. While you do that, I'll share my screen and we'll look at a couple other things since we appear to be shy already. This is an interesting concept of new technology. We talk a lot about AI, and there's a lot of focus on the Gemini models. There's a lot of focus on ChatGPT. There's a lot of focus on it being a chatbot. But a lot of what AI automation and new technology overall is bringing to the world is it's unlocking the ability, and this isn't AI directly here, but it's unlocking the ability for us to have these new technologies available in our lives. So I think you can hear the audio on this. This is a pretty cool company. We covered this on Outwired. For those of you who aren't familiar with that show, Scott Barr and I run a weekly Outwired podcast that focuses on AI, technology, innovation, and guest experience and data and all that kind of stuff as well. And we covered this a few weeks ago. We just thought it was really interesting to see how far some of the future technology, like when we grew up and we were watching the Jetsons and thinking about all the things that the Jetsons used to do and take part in and be aware of. And, we used to want Rosie the Robot, and we used to want flying cars, and we used to want all those things, that some of this stuff is really coming to fruition now. So this is a pretty cool company. You're seeing there's probably several publicly traded companies. Archer Aviation is one. Joby Aviation is another These are publicly traded stocks. These are big companies that have actual flying cars that are up for FAA approval, that are in some cases partway through, like 3 out of 5 steps through FAA approval. There are flying cars that are approved already for commercial use in China. There are pilots that are happening all over the world, in South America and other countries as well. And there's a lot of, I think, sentiment as we go through our busy lives and we have our heads down and we're operating our businesses, that we don't get a chance to often peek out and see all the things that are coming down the pipeline. And this is one of those things. This is coming sooner rather than later. So I want to take a look at this real quick. This is a really interesting company that actually does not require a pilot's license. It functions, and I'm sure this will change very quickly as some of these people catch on, some of the governmental regulations catch on. But for now, this is basically like a giant drone. And imagine one of these trying to land in one of your campground fields. Now, I'm not saying you would allow this, right? But check this out. I'm going way in, out into the open. I'm going straight in, all in the moment. I'm going way out into the open. I'm going straight in, all in the moment. I'm going out into the open. Out into the open. Wide open land, I'm coming. Wide open land, I'm coming. Keep riding, I'm riding to the silence, alone in the quiet. I'm tired, but I like it. I'm a long way from home. The further in I go, the closer I will be to out in the open. Out in the open. Out in the open. So that's just one of many, many companies who are doing this. And I think as you guys, and this is much farther away than the AI is at taking over your software, right? It's probably at least 5 to 10 years away before you start to see these in any measurable capacity in the skies and attempting to land at your campground, and longer than that before they're anywhere at scale, maybe 15, 20 years, right? And maybe I'm wrong, but I think that timeline is fairly realistic. But when you come to an era like that, where these flying cars can all of a sudden take off from a city like New York City that has a population of, I think, 45 million people. Maybe not that much. Sorry, I meant 4.5 million people who don't have cars in New York City. it opens up the ability for all these people who don't have cars, who have trouble getting out of the city because of the big traffic jams, to get to the outdoors, to get to your campground, to experience nature and all the great things that you guys offer as experiences at your glamping resorts. So you should view this not as something that's a new technology that's scary, but something that can actually allow people who otherwise would have trouble or have an unwillingness to go to the outdoors because of all the barriers between them and said outdoors, to be able to take one of these taxis from an Uber or a Lyft or a Delta or a United. All these big airline companies have partnerships with one of these manufacturers or more of them, to be able to take off from the city and take a flying car out 20 minutes to a campground that otherwise would be 2 or 3 hours away with traffic, and then experience nature, land at your park. And yeah, they're not going to have their RV with them, but the glamping resorts, the cabin rentals, the yurts, the teepees, all those kinds of things are going to really be a huge unlock and a business opportunity for a lot of parks who are positioning themselves well for this future. And it opens up a whole lot of new areas too. You know, one of the things that we had conversations with about this with some real estate investors was this opens up the ability for you to have glamping in remote areas that otherwise would require a huge multi-million-dollar or more infrastructure outlay to build roads and power and mostly roads, right? But now if you can take off from somewhere and land in, these are called eVTOLs, eVTOLs, vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. If you can land on a pad in the middle of an island, for example, then you can go glamping on an island without building a bridge or a road or figuring out the logistics of bringing everybody's luggage over by boat. So the ability for entrepreneurs that own outdoor hospitality businesses to get more creative is quite unlimited as you think about some of these new technologies that are coming down the pipeline. So all that stuff is quite interesting to me as we move forward. We apparently have a lot of shy people here who don't want to put anything in with the chat so far. But so we may end up just ending this call a little bit early. One of the other things that I want to talk to you guys about briefly is we'll go through, this is a new call, as I mentioned. It's only week 2. We're still kind of building our audience, finding our cadence, figuring out which works well for everybody here, how often we actually want to do these calls or not. We have covered a lot of technology in the last year as the world has continued to change. And one of the big things that I still find interesting is the skepticism surrounding where technology is already, not where it's even going, but where it is already. And so here's one very good example. We'll watch this video together briefly. It's Figure 3. This is one of many humanoid robotics companies that when you say that to somebody, when you say, wait till the robots come, there's always a laugh, there's always a chuckle, there's always a, yeah, that's still 20 years away, despite what we've all been through with ChatGPT and AI everywhere, in every conversation, in every facet of almost everything we do. It's almost like if you're not a weird geek like me, then you are sick and tired of hearing AI everywhere because it hasn't gotten to the point yet where you can see the benefits to your business. Even though they're there, they haven't been communicated well, especially on the small business side. But when you still talk about robots, people still chuckle. And the truth is that these things are only a couple years away. There's going to be a manufacturing bottleneck where we can't produce them fast enough coming off, the manufacturing line, the assembly line, just like we can't produce, we can only produce a certain amount of cars every day or month or year or whatever else. And so there's a limit on how many cars we can produce. It's just going to be the same thing with robots in the beginning. But you're going to start to see that this stuff is moving a whole lot faster than you think. And the only bottleneck is that manufacturing. They've solved the form factor of the humanoid robot. The intelligence of it is being solved and perfected right now with AIs like ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude being embedded into the brain of these robots so they can see and feel and comprehend what they're doing and seeing. And so I think you're in for quite a surprise when in 5 years pending manufacturing, maybe sooner, you're going to be able to buy one of these humanoid robots for $30,000 US, which is the equivalent of about 41 cents an hour. to have somebody at your campground who can mow your lawn, clean your office, clean your bathrooms, you know, do anything that you want as a maintenance task around the property. And we're not there today, like, but we're going to be there pretty quickly. So let's just watch this one together. You guys can get an idea if this is just one company of many. So again, just one example of some of the things that are coming down the pipeline here. And these are not like 20, 30 years away. These are happening right now. These companies are moving very, very, very fast. I often say, I appear on a lot of podcasts as a guest, and they always ask me about the exponential curve, where I talk about it. And like, we're right here, we're on, like, it's not even going straight up yet. And the reason that we're having these calls every week to foster this discussion, to show you the news, to hopefully get you guys to participate more, to share your wins and ask your questions and figure out what is good or not good, or what can be done or not done at your campgrounds to help you guys be better, is to help you keep up with that as best we can. Because it's not going to be a future that's, in many cases, it will be optional, but in some cases it won't be, especially as consumer expectation changes. And so that's kind of some of our goal there with trying to help you with that. We'll spend a little bit of time here at the end just talking about a use case. And then if we don't have any other questions, we'll just end a few minutes early today. I want to encourage you guys. One of the things that I always talk to either my clients or people we're having on calls or that watch the podcast and ask questions or things like that is, what can I practically do with AI today in my business? Because I think that often gets lost. It's easy for especially a geek like me to show you videos and talk about things that are happening in the future and, get really excited about what's coming. But a lot of people aren't grounded in what is something I can actually do today to help my business. And so I think that's where we want to kind of end the show and focus on one practical thing every week. And how long we go will depend on the questions that we have. But for those who have never used Gemini, it's the same thing as ChatGPT. It's just Google's version of an AI. And so I want to bounce between these. I don't always want to live just in ChatGPT or just in Gemini or just in Claude. I want to have a cognitive recognition of, like, there are a lot of people who use many of these different types of tools depending on their use case, whether they use Google for their email or Microsoft. They can use Copilot. There's all kinds of these different systems out there, but they all work relatively the same. It's just some of the features that they have are different. So I would encourage you to go in here and say, from a fundamental level, one of the things I think a lot of people miss is, what do I do with AI? How can it help my business? And they'll go read articles that are listened to CampVantage lives like this, or they'll, read blogs or look at podcasts or YouTube videos, and they still struggle because it's so much information to process and digest. And the truth of the matter is that it's much easier to get that information than you think. And the answer is just to go to AI and ask. And so many people miss this step. It's really interesting to me. Like, I think I probably didn't think about it the first time I used AI either. But if you just go to AI and say, I am a campground owner, and I'm unsure about how I can use AI in my business today, without hiring an expensive developer, I'm not tech savvy. Give me 5 quick wins or something like that. Now you can type whatever you want in this box, but as I've said repeatedly, maybe not on this show yet, but or show on this live yet, but on many other shows and podcasts and discussions that I've had about AI, is the input equals the output. So the analogy that I give all the time is if you are a campground owner and you tell your staff member to go clean the campground, they could go clean the miniature golf course, they could clean the bathrooms, they could wipe the dust off the shelves in the store, they could do any number of things, some of which might be what you want, some of which probably aren't what you want. But if your input to that employee is, please go clean the bathroom and do it this way, then you're going to get much closer to a result, if not exactly the result as what you want. The same thing goes with AI. Treat it just like an employee. Speak to it and give it the same context that a human being would need to execute and do the same things that you expect a human being to do, and you will get a much better output. So here you could just say, hey, I don't know how to use AI. Or you could expand it and say, and give it more context. Tell it who you are, why you're coming to it and asking questions, what you need from it, that you don't have a budget to hire and do code expensive things, and don't talk to you like a geek, and just give me 5 quick examples. And when you do that, it's going to give you a much better answer. I hope. We'll see how my prompting is in a second. But I hope that you can take and then use in your business to move forward. So you can see, you'll see Gemini here thinking through some things. You can always click this if you're interested and you're waiting on it to see what it's kind of thinking through. And sometimes it's really interesting to see this. We've been drilling down into quick applications. I'm prioritizing user friendliness, thinking about automated communication. So you can see these AIs are thinking in much the same way that our brains think. And it's really interesting if you study some of that stuff. So here's 5 quick wins you can use today to improve your campground business using AI. These require no coding, are low cost or free, and solve the specific headaches of running a campground, like repetitive questions and seasonal marketing. So here's your number 1 is the 24/7 front desk answering repetitive questions. So this is, you could create a simple automated response tool that answers those instantly. Obviously, we're not here to sell my services, but we offer AI chatbots and calls for campgrounds too. But there are companies like Chatbase who can do this for you. And I shouldn't even say for you. Like, you sign up for this, it's super cheap. You can go in and upload some PDFs and you can get a basic bot that will answer these questions for you for cheap. There's a review diplomat, drafting replies to reviews. Responding to reviews on TripAdvisor, Google, or The Dirt is crucial, but it's emotionally draining to reply to angry guests and time-consuming to thank happy ones. The win is professional, polite responses generated in seconds that make you look attentive and caring. So again, you just copy a guest review into ChatGPT, paste it in there with this instruction. I'm a campground owner. Please write a polite, professional, and warm response to this guest review. Mention that we appreciate their visit. And then you could also add context to that too. You could say, this is for my campground in this city. Here's the name of my campground. Look up a little bit about my campground before I answer it. Again, the more time that you take to make these prompts better, the better result you'll get. And you can open up a conversation on the left-hand side here, and you can save it open and say, you can start it off and say, I need your help responding to reviews, and then give all the information that we just talked about. I'm a campground owner in city and state. Go research a little bit about my property, learn about it, and then you can just use that as a constant thread to respond to reviews instead of teaching it over and over and over again. It will remember the things that it's learned about you. And then you can just, review the text, tweak it slightly, and then copy and paste it back into Google Business or Facebook or wherever you want. The photo fixer, cleaning up site photos. You have a great photo of campsite number 4, but there's an ugly trash can in the corner or a hose left out on the grass. You don't need a photographer. So this is using Canva as a tool, specifically the Magic Eraser tool. This is actually really interesting. We'll see if we can find this good a use case. Campground photo. Let's see what we can find here. So I'm just going to look up campground photo on Google Images, and let's see if we can pick out one here. That's a good use case for something we could do that's a little harder. let's just try. Let's see. All right, let's just go to the top. We'll just do this one as an example. So let's say you have this, and I'm just going to download the one from here. You have this image. This is a nice shaded tent site or RV site that's on your property. And you would like to market this site. You don't want to deceive anybody, but you want to market the site and you don't want that tent to be there because you want to market it maybe as an RV site that pulls up and backs into the trees. You can actually take this right into Google Gemini. So it recommended Canva, but you don't even need that anymore. You can go down here into Gemini. We'll open up a new conversation. We'll just upload the file here that we have from our desktop. And we'll say, can you please remove the tent from this picture? And it will use this new model that's integrated into here. You can see it's Nano Banana Pro that we covered last week on this call. If you didn't have a chance to watch last week, there's a video that is on YouTube. This one will be on YouTube as well, talking about Nano Banana Pro. Basically a really good image editor that's built right into Gemini. You don't have to go anywhere else. And then you'll see here that it will take its time and it will look at the photo and it will check, and then it will give you the same photo without the tent here. Now it's blurry because we pulled it from Google. The original photo is really, really small, as you can see. So, but it clearly works. Like it's the same. If you count the trees, like there's 1, 2 trees, 1, 2 trees, a tree in the middle. There's 2 trees over here. Like it's the same trees, the same setup, the same picnic table, the same, like nothing else has changed. You can see the shadows are the same on the ground. In the foreground as the background. It literally just took out the tent. So there's no need anymore for you to even learn a Canva or a Photoshop or anything else. You just have to go into these models and tell it what you want. And then you can have all kinds of different marketing photos. Obviously, you should start with a much higher resolution picture than that. But that's a pretty good example for you on how to do that. The local guide creator, value add for guests. Guests always ask, what is there to do around here? You probably have a mental list, but it's hard to keep a printed guide updated. The win is create a robust hidden gems guide for your area to email to guests before they arrive. So this is interesting. Type in this prompt. I own a campground in your town or your state, and your state. Please create a 3-day itinerary for a family with kids, highlighting the best 5 local trails, 3 affordable family restaurants, and 2 rainy day activities within a 30-minute drive. Copy that result into an email or simple document to hand out at check-in. That's easy, right? So you can take this, like we'll do some action items on this. You can take this into Gemini and we'll say, we'll just do Savannah, Georgia. That's the town that popped into my head. And we'll let it create its itinerary. And you can copy paste this into an email. You can put this into a Google Doc and attach it to the email, or you can level it up and take it one step further than that. And there's all kinds of tools that you can use beyond just chatbots to save yourself time. And I'll show you that in a second. Let me let this thing finish. But the sky really is the limit here for your creativity and your curiosity. You just have to sit back at your campground and say, what are some of the things that take my time away from spending more time either with my guests or on the guest experience at my property and making it better? And if you can sit back and ask those questions, then you will identify a lot of things that either you can do through ChatGPT or Gemini, or that you can find other pieces of software to do that will save you time as well. And some of that will be built into AI and some of it won't. So as we let this thing finish, I would also encourage you to explore the user interface around you here too. There are not a lot of buttons, I should say that, compared to normal software. But if you come down here, there's a tools menu in Gemini where you can select that you want to create images, or if you want to create videos, it can actually create AI generated videos for you. These deep research tools are available in ChatGPT, and they're also available in Gemini. So if you flip over to a ChatGPT, let me go back here for a second on this other window, and I will show you that. So if you're in ChatGPT, then you can come down here, and there is a deep research mode in here as well. So very similar. But those just go out and they basically will spend 10 to 30 minutes with a plan, and they'll browse hundreds of different websites for you and get really in depth into a topic. If you need to plan something out, like permitting for a playground in your area or something like that, now you should always double check this. You should always, nobody's saying this is replacing the amazing consultants that we have in our industry that have 20, 30 years of experience. But this is a quick win to get you to a shortcut to figure that stuff out. So deep research will help you do that. Canvas actually helps you kind of draw and iterate and build. And then there's a guided learning here. There's Deep Think, which allows it to just think longer. So they all have their own little branded stuff. And then there are a lot of ways that you can attach tools to this stuff too. We'll come back to Savannah in 1 second. So you have Google Drive, you can add things from. You can upload photos and files, of course. Here's the same create image here. ChatGPT has a shopping mode. ChatGPT also has agent mode, which will go out and use a browser to research stuff for you, which is really interesting to see from a trip planning perspective. And then you can see there are other connectors here too that you can add sources from for Gmail and Google Calendar and for other things like that that you can connect to. So you can see they've got a small selection of things in here, but Shopify and SEMrush and Canva. And so it will just integrate with all these different apps, and you can ask questions and it can actually use these as tools. So the more you play around with this stuff, the more you click buttons, like you can't really break anything in here. So the more that you try to play around with this stuff and just learn, the better that you'll get familiar with all of it and understand some of the possibilities for your business. So this is the last thing we'll do here. Is this 3-day itinerary is designed for families staying at a Savannah campground, like Skidaway Island or nearby, blending outdoor adventure with affordable kid-friendly dining and backup plans for rain. So it gives us day 1, island adventure and local favorites. Goes through the morning, the lunch, the afternoon, the dinner, history, forts, and river fun on day 2. Day 3, Oaks, Plains, and retro vibes. Rainy day backup plans. Quick reference, top 5 hiking trails. And then it actually builds you this custom map here that you can see all the different places and where they're located. So if you were staying at up here in Hardyville, or you were staying down here in Savannah at one of the properties here, and you could see like where you were located at. Maybe you're up here in Hilton Head and you want to come down to Savannah and see where the border is and the rivers and where everything is that you need to go to in that itinerary. But then you can do something else with this too, right? So you can take this whole thing, you can copy it, and you can come to this interesting app called Gamma. And this is basically think of it like a Microsoft PowerPoint, except you don't have to design all the slides. So I can come here and I can just go paste in text. And I can say I want to make a document for my campers to see, right? So instead of putting this in a generic Google Doc, I want to make it look a little bit pretty, right? So I want to take the information that I have here from Google, and I want to maybe paste it in. Google's paste button doesn't want to work, so give me 1 second here. We'll just manually do this. And so we have all this stuff in here now, the same thing that we have. We're not going to really touch it. We could space it out a little bit, but that's really just more my preference to see things separate than it is a requirement to do that. And then you can see we've got the rainy day backup plans, and then just the quick reference. And then over here on the left, well, sorry, not on that left yet. So we say default, we have a document here. We want to preserve the exact text, and we want to continue to a prompt editor. Then you can come here and you can say, I want to preserve this. That's great. I could choose the design if I really want to. We won't do that for now. We're going to do automatically select the best images for whatever it wants. And then up here, we're going to say, I am creating guest guide to Savannah, Georgia, that I can share with people who are staying at my campground so they know what to see in the area. And that's all you got to do. And then watch, we'll hit generate here. And it says, actually, I want to go back, sorry. I'm going to let it continue and then I'll go back so I can make sure I cut it off. But you can go freeform at the top is what I forgot to click. So we'll go back here. We'll do freeform. We'll say it's 10 cards. It's probably needs to be a little less than that. We'll do 5 cards because it's short. We'll do 6. And then you just hit generate. And then it's going to choose everything to do. This is going to use AI, images, all that kind of stuff. It's going to put together this nice presentation here for you that looks professional, that looks like you spent hours of your day putting these things together. It's going to embed images here, which you can obviously replace. I've had it choose like stock photos. You could have it do AI generated. You could do different things like that. You can obviously swap the images out. But it puts together this very nice presentation of amazing things that you can see in the area. And even if you have this thing with stock photos all over it, you can click it and you can just replace the image or edit it. There's a bunch of images over here that you can choose, one of which, some of these have stock photos all over them. But and it creates all this content here that now you can just come up here, you can share, you can export, you can download to a PDF, and you can attach it to your guests' emails. So there's lots more that we could go through when it comes to, the ability for you to do that stuff with AI. But I think unless we have some other questions in chat, which I don't believe we do, we have one from Timoni that says, the video shows a home with modern, wide, and organized spaces. Will it work in homes that are tight and with dogs like mine? I think you're talking about the Figure 3 robot, probably. The answer is this why it's taking so long to get this stuff released for the home, is they're really focused on that safety. Like I have absolutely no idea. Like I think it's going to be probably 5 to 10 years before this is everywhere. But I think in 5 to 10 years, you're going to see millions of these robots all over the place. It's going to be a weird world that we're going to live in. And I think I choose to be optimistic and think it's going to be an interesting world. A good world. But it's going to be different for sure. So I don't know the answer to that question yet. But I think you're going to for sure have lots of people who have lots of tight spaces, who have dogs and who have candles burning and things like that need to be taken care of and recognized. And so I think that's why the workplace is going to happen before the home does for this stuff. And yeah, at the current pricing, for sure, it's meant for businesses. But like you're going to be able to take out a loan eventually. So this is where it's going to be able to come to many more people. Think of it like a car loan. So if we're headed toward a future, and we are, where Waymo and self-driving cars like Tesla's Robotaxi and other companies like Amazon Zoox are allowing you to have a Robotaxi be available at your fingertips for, right now it's more expensive, but eventually cheaper than it is to actually have a human Uber or Lyft driver. Then at that point, because there's thousands of them, and this is years away, but if there's thousands of them on the road that are available at your beck and call if you're in a city, then you almost have an argument where you don't need to have a car anymore. Like many people in New York don't have a car, New York City. You have a stronger argument for that case. So then what do you, normally you would go out and you'd have a loan to buy a $30, $40, $50, $80,000 car vehicle. It's no different here. There's going to be the ability for people to finance their robots for $100 a month or something like that. It's going to come to everybody. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see where that stuff goes. And the further along we get, I think the cheaper you get. Like there's already and it's not good, it's not great, it's not really useful, but there's already a humanoid robot that you can buy from China, I think for $15,000 or something right now, that you can have shipped to you. So, yeah, I think that's the answer, Timoni. Like a lot of people are going to say that too. And thanks for your comments too, Gretel. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of the choice, right? Like human beings are great at a lot of things. And we're going to always want human beings in certain roles, especially as we look toward how we want to treat the future of hospitality at campgrounds and RV parks, right? We want this to always be a guest-focused experience. So how do we make sure that that guest experience is front and center at RV parks and campgrounds? The answer is that we use the technology that's available through AI or automation or robotics to allow us as the owners, if that's what we want to do, or our staff, if we, the owners, don't want to be those people, and actually get out and spend more time with our guests and or focus more on the guest experience so that they can have a better stay with us, so that we're differentiating our property from everybody else. And right now, every small business owner, but especially the campground owners that I talk about, have so much on their plates to do that it's hard. And sometimes it's even impossible. And what technology like this is going to do is level that playing field for everybody. It's going to allow you to start to do some things that previously only bigger companies could do, so that you have more time to be that personal person with your guest and really set yourself apart. So I think that's it for today. We will wrap up CampVantage live. This is our second week. I think we'll do 1 or 2 more weeks after this. And maybe in 2026, we'll go every other week. We'll go once a month. We'll see what the appetite is for this stuff. But thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. If you didn't catch some or part of this episode, it will be on YouTube available later. And you can see that for everyone. So thank you all for joining us. I appreciate it. And we'll see you again next